What's up, guys? This is Ben Westbrook, a Texas personal injury attorney, and today I'm going to be going over the legal ramifications surrounding the tragic death of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna. As you all know, they died a year ago yesterday in a helicopter crash. So in this video, what we're going to do is talk about the causes of action that have been filed and what that means, what the defenses are that are being put up by the helicopter company, and finally what money can be recovered if the lawsuit is successful. If you want to read a good article on this, and most of the information that I'm taking for this video, it comes from Tom Shadd's USA Today article that was published on January 21st, 2020. It's online, and I'll put a link to it in the notes below. So, according to the Shadd article, there's been 9 lawsuits that have been filed to date regarding the helicopter crash. The one that we're going to talk about in this video is the one filed by Kobe's widowed wife, Vanessa Bryant, and that's a wrongful death lawsuit. Vanessa Bryant sued Island Express Helicopters. She alleges that the negligent conduct of the helicopter pilot is what led to the death of Kobe and Gianna. The families of the other passengers have joined in that suit. They filed suit on the matter as well, and they are suing for the same reasons, that the pilot was negligent and that's what led to the death. Now, the reason Ms. Bryant says that she is entitled to money is because she believes that if it wasn't for the pilot's mistake, Kobe and Gianna would still be alive today. We call that type of lawsuit, as I already said, a wrongful death lawsuit. A wrongful death lawsuit is usually brought by the parents, spouses, or the children seeking money for the death of a family member. And to prove a wrongful death cause of action, you're going to have to show that the defendant committed some kind of wrongful act. He made some mistake in judgment that led to the family member's death. The wrongful act is what we normally call negligence. In this case, the plaintiffs are saying that the mistake or the negligent act of the pilot was that he did not properly assess the weather conditions, and if he would have done so, he would have aborted the flight or turned around and, returned safely. Now, you may be thinking, the pilot's dead, so, and the helicopter company didn't make the mistake, the pilot did. Why is the helicopter company a party to this suit? Well, you got to keep in mind that there is a legal rule, there's a law called vicarious liability. It's also sometimes called respondeat superior. And what that means is that the employer can be held liable for the wrongful acts of its employees if the employees commit those acts in the scope of their employment. So, for example, an Uber driver who's transporting a fare from one side of town to the other that runs a red light and gets in a wreck, well, Uber can be held responsible for that Uber driver's mistake. So if the passenger sues because they were injured, they can sue Uber as well as the Uber driver and get money from both. However, if an Uber driver is driving the same car, but he's not transporting a fare, instead he's taking his wife out to dinner for a date, and he gets in a wreck, Uber's not responsible. He wasn't in the course of his employment when that wreck occurred, so Uber's not on the hook to pay any of the damages he may have caused in making his mistake. So, in this case, the defendant has done a couple of things that we need to talk about in response to this lawsuit. The first thing he's done is the defendant countersued 2 federal air traffic controllers that were on duty the day of the crash. And the defendant's alleging that the air traffic duty controllers are at least partially responsible for the accident, that if they would have done a better job, this wouldn't have happened. Now, why are they doing this? Because the strategic goal of that maneuver is to remove the case from state court and put it into a federal court. Now, in America, we have 2 types of courts. We have state courts, which are different in all 50 states. They're controlled by the procedures in that state. They're controlled by the laws passed by the legislature in that state, and they're different. What we do in Texas state courts is different than what they do in New Mexico. But we have another court system kind of layered over all that, that's the federal court system. And the federal court system procedurally is the same everywhere you go. So if you know the rules of the federal court system, the federal courts located in Texas, you know the rules of the federal courts located in Alaska. The reason that defendants sometimes like to remove cases to federal court is, one, federal courts are known to be more friendly towards defendants than plaintiffs. 2, they have harsher and stricter rules. You can make more mistakes when trying to prosecute a case in federal court. And 3, the federal courts have more appeal avenues available that the defendant can use if they, lose at trial. So they pulled this out and they moved it to federal court because they think it's going to be better for their case. The other thing that they've done is they have alleged some affirmative defenses. And I don't know all the affirmative defenses that they have put forth because I've not read the pleadings. I just saw one in the the USA article that I referenced earlier. And that affirmative defense that they're putting forth is assumption of the risk. Now, what is an affirmative defense? Let's go through that, and I'll talk about the actual one that they're using. When you're in a civil lawsuit, if you're the defendant, you have to file what's called an answer. In Texas, it's called an answer. You have to basically tell the court in writing that you're not responsible for what the plaintiff is alleging. Now, in your answer, you can make general denials, specific denials, and you can make affirmative defenses. A general or specific denial is basically saying the plaintiff has to prove these 4 things, and I think the plaintiff is not going to be able to prove all 4 or 2 of them or 3 of them or 1 of them. Doesn't matter. But if they aren't able to prove their case, the defendant's going to win, right? So a general denial just says he can't prove all of it. Specific denial says he can't prove this one. And then after that, sometimes you'll see affirmative defenses. Now, how an affirmative defense is different than just a general denial is that an affirmative defense is basically saying even if the plaintiff proves his case, defendant still wins because of X. All right. So the classic example that everybody's familiar with is the self-defense affirmative defense that you see. You can see it in civil trials, but we're usually hearing about it in a criminal situation. And basically, what self-defense affirmative defense says is that, yeah, okay, I shot the guy, I killed him, guilty to that, but I do not have to go to jail, or I'm not financially responsible because I was in fear of my life. This person was attacking me. I thought they were going to kill me. There was threat of serious bodily harm, and I have a right to defend myself. So I shot them, and now they're dead. Okay, so the affirmative defense here that the helicopter company is putting forth is that Kobe Bryant, and they actually have his daughter, Gianna, who was a minor, that they both knew the risk of proceeding with the flight and that they decided to proceed anyways. Now, whether that's an effective defense as far as Kobe's concerned, I don't know. I don't know the facts. I don't know what they're going to be able to prove through testimony or documents or recordings to show whether or not Kobe knew, that one, that there was bad weather, and 2, that he was familiar enough with the danger of that he made a conscious decision to risk his life and proceed. I can tell you if they try to prove that up regarding a minor, which his daughter was at the time, I think that has the potential to seriously backfire on them and make jurors pretty angry. I would not advance that defense if I was their counsel as far as it goes with Gianna. So what happens if Miss Bryant is successful with her claim? What kind of damages can she recover? Now, it may be different in California. I don't know, California law, but in Texas, the damages that you can recover for in a wrongful death claim are damages for the loss of the deceased person's earning capacity, loss of their advice, counsel, support, and services. The plaintiff can also recover mental anguish damages, and they can recover for the loss of companionship and the loss of inheritance. Obviously, in this case, the loss of earning capacity is a pretty large damage model, I assume, for Kobe Bryant, as will be probably maybe the loss of inheritance. But and mental anguish should be a good one too. The fact is, though, there's only going to be so much money to go around in this case. The insurance policy is only going to be so large, and for a helicopter company that's not just a huge company, I don't know that there's going to be enough money to really fairly compensate Miss Bryant for what she's lost. Even if they take it to trial and get a verdict, there might not be enough money, even if the helicopter company was forced to go into bankruptcy or something like that, to cover for everything that Kobe Bryant, the earnings he was going to make from now until he died, which I would think would be millions and millions of dollars. So that's kind of what they're looking at with the damage model. There's another thing that they can add in there, another damage. It's called exemplary damages, and you can get that if you can prove up a wrongful act that led to the death of the defendant. And what we call that a lot of times is gross negligence. And gross negligence is like negligence, but it's on steroids. And what you'll see with that a lot of times is the plaintiffs trying to prove that the company knew the dangers, knew the risk, but encouraged the driver or the pilot to push forward through the risk in the name of profit. You'll see that a lot of times in truck wrecks where, truckers are supposed to only drive so many hours a day, so many, hours a week or month. And a lot of times you'll see, truck driving companies putting these drivers in no-win positions where they're forced to drive longer than they're supposed to, and they get tired and they hurt somebody really bad or kill them, and it's it's their fault, but it's also the company's fault because they ignore these safety regulations that they know are there to protect people. So you may see something like that. If this pilot was encouraged frequently by the company to fly through dangerous conditions, and that's not a safe procedure, then that may be something that they're able to prove gross negligence on the company's part, which would obviously increase the damages significantly, provided that there's enough money to cover it. So anyways, that's that. I'm going to link the article if you want to give it a look. It's pretty good rundown. There's another interesting thing in the article that you should give a look at, and we may talk about in a later video, and that is Vanessa Bryant's mother has actually sued her, saying that Kobe Bryant promised to take care of her from for the rest of her life, and Vanessa Bryant's not honoring that promise. That's something that is kind of interesting and salacious. So we may go through it and give it a look and talk about gifts and contracts and when those are enforceable, and talk about that in another video. So if you got any comments or questions, post them below. If not, I will talk to you later. Hit the like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. There will be more content similar to it coming out later.